think it's unprecedented. I don't think any band member in any band has gone for 15 years and returned to the same people.
There was a gap. There was a hole in the band. My oldest friend.
I mean, she's got one of the most distinctive voices in music. It's a joy. As a rhythm section, she's a real force. She is Our Lady.
She's a hit songwriter. She can hear it in her head. That's a hit chorus. It's an art, and she has it.
Well, I'm the hook queen. Because I don't know how to write any other way.
Not forgetting their gas masks, the children head for the special train. So it's goodbye to the cities and danger areas. To another 120,000 of them comes the great adventure.
My name's Christine McVIE, but it used to be Christine Perfect. And I was born up in the Lake District. We were there during the war years. I'm a war baby.
Our father's name was Cyril, and he was an extremely good violinist, and he was doing afternoon recitals on the home service, you know, BBC home service, violin sonatas and things.
He was forever in his evening suit. I remember a lot of rehearsing. Mozart, Lark Ascending, the house would reverberate.
And our mother's name was Beatrice Edith Maud.
She was a great mum, quite an extraordinary woman. She was very gifted, she was psychic.
Dad got a job at Birmingham and he went down to look for a house. He came home very excited and my mother looked at him and she said, "It's up a sloping road near a park." He said, "It's on the right-hand side and it's number 52.
We moved to Birmingham, so I'm basically a Brummie.
My father was very concerned that we should do well. He was quite academic and clever, and Chris, she apparently just gazed out the window at school. So he moved her to an art school. She did sculpture and design.
Also, I took classical piano lessons. And then I discovered a book of Fats Domino. It was my brother's in the piano stool, and I just picked it up. Fats Domino, what's this?
I found my thrill.
And I thought, this is good, I like this.
Oh, Blueberry Hill.
That's how our little band first formed, was in the college there, and it was called Sound of Blue. And I played bass.
Every Sunday for over a year, we played at the Dudley Liberal Club, and every Sunday it was packed out.
We just played 12-bar blues, so it was just something to do on the weekends whilst we were in college.
We really didn't have that much going, and in the end, the band dissolved. We lost contact with each other. Christine went off to London. You can't really get many jobs with a sculpting degree. So I got a job as a window dresser in Regent Street. After 4 years at art college, at least that's something vaguely three-dimensional.
Birmingham is one of England's newest cities. Its face has come to result.
I want to jump out. Hey, come on. I wanted to go back to having my own band again. So I talked to Andy about starting a chicken shack. We thought it would be a good idea, but after a while we thought we need a keyboard player. What about Christine? So we tried a few times, and she didn't want to do it. A bad load of blokes and one girl in it, hardly ever heard of. You had Lulu fronting the Lovers. You had a girl called Megan playing bass in the Applejacks, a Birmingham band, and Honey Landry and the Honeycombs playing drums, sort of. And, and that was it. I think we came to the conclusion the best thing to do was just try one more time, and if that doesn't work, well, we'll leave it at that.
By this time she was working at Dickens and Jones in Regent Street as a window dresser.
We were just walking past the window and total fluke, there she was in the window.
Andy Sylvester came walking along and knocked on the window and went, and we met for lunch, and he said, "Do you want to join a blues band?" So I said, "But I don't play the blues." He said, "I can just give you some records. You can kind of just learn a bit of piano playing off the records." From B.B. King to Freddie King, especially Sonny Thompson, who was a great blues piano player. And I just stole some of his licks. And then I started forming my own way of playing.
For some inexplicable reason at the time, she decided she'd do it.
Came up to Birmingham and joined Chicken Shack.
Oh, show me good man, now your man is gone. See, baby, see what you've done, oh Lord, mama. Yeah, see, baby.
Times were quite tough when we first started gigging in London. Mike Vernon was the record producer for us, and he fixed us up with a lot of gigs. He got us Windsor Jazz Festival.
By then we had Blue Horizon as a label set up, and we already had signed Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. My plan was to sign the Chicken Shack, and so we organised to put both those bands on that particular festival. Fleetwood Mac, of course, were a huge success. But I have to say that Chicken Shack were almost as successful. And as time went by, Christine really started to latch onto her ability, not only just as a pianist, but as a singer. She did that really successfully by actually writing her own songs. I think people really started to notice her.
Bye-bye, baby. See you when the train gets back. I said bye-bye, baby. See you when the train gets back.
When the train comes back, it was, I think, the beginning of what you might call my style.
And the train is rolling down the track.
There's lots of good voices in the world, but less than 1% of those voices have personality, and she's got personality in spades. On the surface of it, it's a very English voice, and it shouldn't really make sense singing the blues, but she always made the blues sound right.
I said bye-bye, baby. Bye-bye, baby, bye-bye.
It was an unusual voice, and it was very English.
You got 20 other women. You know another one wouldn't do.
There was no attempt to kind of give it that mid-transatlantic tonality. It somehow feels like it's about 4 or 5 years ahead of its time.
Bye-bye, baby. See you when the train gets back.
And if you get my meaning, it sounds like Fleetwood Mac in the future. Isn't that weird?
Well, no wonder critics and the audiences agree. Thank you very much. When the critics and the audiences agree that something's very good, it's got to be very good. So the group we're talking about is Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, we were their hugest fans. Andy, Sylvester and I, whenever we weren't performing, we would find out where Fleetwood Mac were playing because they were so red hot. They were killer.
Christine enjoyed watching Peter, and I can understand that.
Because he was very, very cute.
Need someone's hand to lead me through the night.
You just couldn't take your eyes off the guy.
I need someone's arm.
Can you imagine the effect it had on Christine?
To hold and squeeze me tight.
The hormones going wild, you know.
Because I need your love so bad.
But I saw John, there he was.
It was Windsor Jazz Festival. A couple of hours later, she was sitting back at the Windsor Hotel playing on an upright piano, just tinkling. And I became very brave and leaned over and said, well, would you like to go out and have dinner or something? And like an idiot, she said yes.
Out in the crowd, he was so handsome. He used to drive a Harley, and he got this old, beaten-up Indian jacket from America, and he had a Fu Manchu moustache and long hair. I adored him.
It's very rare that an instrumental number finds its way to the very top of the hit parade.
Player of Fleetwood Mac, my God, both of the same record label, and what more could I wish for? But the thing that Chicken Shack really needed was some kind of a chart single.
Something told me it was over.
It was suggested to us to do Etta James' Rather Go Blind.
When I saw you and her talking.
I said, you're joking. I'm not doing that. It's a ballad. We don't do ballads.
Something deep down in my soul said, cry, girl.
Because of our indifference, I could barely be bothered to play anything on it. And because it had all this space in it, next thing you know, it's flying up the charts. She was voted Melody Maker Female Singer of the Year.
London. Pop Pickers Time. Awards for the favourites from their fans. For Christine Perfect, it was nothing but the best. She was named Top Girl Singer of 1969.
And then it made Top of the Pops. They were on there. The biggest shock we had was within a week, we got the news Christine was going to lead the band and become a housewife, which I found totally incredulous. I could not get my head around it, which was like such an old-fashioned expression, really, even then.
The first flat we had was a place up in Primrose Hill. We had a slight problem because I used to meet him on the doorstep with a suitcase in my hand, and he was just coming back with his suitcase, crossing the threshold, both going different ways. One of us was going to have to do something about it.
But I think she said, oh, enough of this shit, I'll be, Mrs. Mac, which is completely unlike Christine. She's very much her own powerhouse,
I took off on the road with a band. My first solo album, legendary Christine Perfect album.
I'm crazy about you, baby. But you don't care nothing in the world for me.
And that was a disaster. And I knew that I could never be a solo performer. I was so uncomfortable. It was a little club, 300 people, and I just had a meltdown, ran off stage. Burst into tears, and I said, I can't do this anymore.
Shall I tell you about my life? They say I'm a man around the world. I've flown
Babes in the Wood, really. Lost. Quite lost. Kiln House was one desperate move on behalf of a drummer trying to think of what would have us feel secure.
We were there for months, lovely English summer.
We cooked meals for them and tie-dyed T-shirts and smoked a lot of pot.
We were maybe 3 or 4 days before starting a tour in the United States with that album, Kiln House.
The sound needed a fill. And hello, and there's Christine. Kidding me?
She's been making food for all of us for months, watching, being Chris. And it was right under our nose. We sort of asked her walking out of the door whether she would come on tour with us, and that was the beginning of Christine's connection.
And I knew all the songs, so I just said absolutely. I just was right in there.
Moonshine time, thoughts of you, spinning round as thoughts do.
When we came back from the tour, I was actually house hunting because we were only renting Kiln House.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I found Benny Folds.
Fleetwood Mac. They've had 3 #1 hits in England, but shun the usual rewards that accompany success. They prefer a commune in the woods.
I proposed that we all buy the house as a cooperative and make flats in this old Victorian house, which became the backbone of saving Fleetwood Mac for many, many, many years.
It seemed like magic to me, and I think it was like magic for a while. Per amount of substance use, one kind and another.
All the wives were there, a lot of hash smoking.
Help me, baby, help me take my blues.
I don't think anything productive came out of it, except when Bob Welch arrived.
Mac, this is Christine McVie. On my right, John McVie. On my left, this is Mick Fleetwood, sitting in the center with the...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bob came over, and that was interesting.
He had such a fantastic personality that you just wanted to listen to him all night. And he'd sit there with these great big stogies and tell us all these tales.
For Chris, Bob was creatively a breath of fresh air.
Bob Welch and I started to understand how to sing together in harmony.
It was the first elements, somewhat later to...
But at that time, we were in a sort of flat period.
They hadn't had a hit for 5 years, and a lot of people have lost track of them. They're not even viewed as yesterday's papers. They're not even viewed as being in the paper.
Commercially, after Peter left, nobody wanted to know in England at all.
We went elsewhere, somewhere where we felt we could grow, that had none of the history, which was Peter.
I didn't want to go. I'm staunchly patriotic, and I said, I don't want to leave England, I don't want to leave England. Everybody said, let's just go for 3 months. See if we can get a record deal over there. So I said, OK, if it's 3 months, fine. And it was 23 years. So there we were in LA. I think we did a small tour. Bob Welch, I never knew in all the years he was in the band that he was actually a heroin junkie.
Unbeknownst to me, Bob was falling apart, and he left very short notice. In fact, at the last show we did. And the rest is sort of history, to say the least.
We are then left guitarless.
Okay, well, you out there? We're all the way from L.A., California, Buckingham Nicks.
We were starving to death. I mean, we had no money. I had 3 jobs and my music job. But the record was not doing anything. The record company flat out didn't want another Buckingham Nicks record. It was a hard life.
Mick was looking around for a studio. He'd heard about a place called Sound City in the Valley and met Keith Alston, the head engineer. Mick just wanted to know what the sound was like in the studio.
So Keith put on a song of Stevie's and mine off an album that we had out about a year earlier called Buckingham Nicks, and I guess liked it, and he just called us up and said, would you like to join?
They needed Lindsay. That he could pretty much cover Peter Green if he wanted.
The initial thing I was listening to was Lindsay's guitar playing.
Mick called us on New Year's Eve, 1974. But that would have been going into the next day, would have been 1975. And said, would you have dinner with us? That was at a Mexican restaurant. Lindsay and I got there first, and we were waiting out in front, and they drove up in 2 white Cadillacs with the fins. The fins. My dad had one. They were old then, and they kind of clunked up. So Lindsay and I were like, you know, in my Toyota Corolla. So it's like, well, they definitely are doing better than us.
Lindsay said, if I were to join Fleetwood Mac, my girlfriend comes too.
They told Christine, we won't get Lindsay without her, so if you don't like her, we won't ask them to join the band, because it is adding another woman to a band that already has a woman in it.
This little chick walked in, full of fun, and I thought, well, if I'm going to work with a girl in a band, she can be it, because I really liked her.
We just really hit it off. And, you know, you don't just hit it off with everybody. I even thought, you know, even if this doesn't work out, I'll still be friends with Chris.
We didn't even play with them. We didn't even audition them. We just said, join the band with us, you know.
Lindsay was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then I pretty much said, we're joining Fleetwood Mac.
My mum had mentioned many, many years ago, when I was a teenager, that I would meet some people involved somehow, and she said the word Orange Grove. When I met Stevie and Lindsay and they said that they lived in a street called Orange Grove, I thought, oh, this has got to be auspicious in some way.
And then we had a first rehearsal on Beverly Boulevard in a basement. And Mick and I were standing upstairs.
And I'd written a song called Say You're Lovely, and I started playing it. When the chorus came in, they came in immediately with this incredible 3-part harmony. When the loving stops and the lights go down. We all just got goosebumps.
Oh my God. This is fantastic.
The room would go like this. Enough said.
The 3 parts, they just had them down. So we just knew we had something great.
We rehearsed for about 6 weeks. The songs came together very fast because Lindsay and I had tons of songs. That's 2 writers, and then there's Christine, who also had tons of songs. So we were just putting them together and fine-tuning it, so when we went into the studio, we were ready.
I think that I upped my game. I mean, I started writing obsessively. I just felt that I had to do justice to these two great musicians.
One of the bands to emerge from the British blues, and they've been in it since the 60s, and currently there's a single called Over My Head. Let's welcome Fleetwood Mac.
You can take me to paradise. Then again, you could be cold as ice. I'm over my head. But it sure feels nice.
Over My Head was such a great song.
You can take me anytime you like.
The way Christine writes songs, they're so deceptively simple, but not.
I think that song was inspired by Lindsay, to be honest with you. I don't think he ever knew that, but he knows now. He was that kind of a guy, you know, he could be cold as ice. And then he could be great. So I think I just took, you know, that feeling I was feeling and made it into a song.
I think I'm looking on the dark side, but every day you hurt my pride.
Over My Head was like a masterpiece of a blended community of musicians.
But it sure feels nice.
They were kind of a worldly sounding band with the Buckingham Nicks kind of West Coast thing in the mix with Christine's English accent, which made it even more appealing.
Your mood is like a circus wheel. You're changing all the time.
And they really hadn't ever been on the charts or had a hit in the United States. Over My Head was their first hit single in America. There was Fleetwood Mac, but there was a woman singing in Fleetwood Mac. This was different, and she was welcomed.
We went out on a tour very fast at the very beginning of the summer. And it was huge for Lindsay and I since we had not been playing in front of anybody.
I think within a few shows, you started to see a lot of excitement. I think that the female presence brought something a little different, a little bit of softness that perhaps some of the other bands touring didn't have, a little bit more humanness that only a woman can bring. As far as I'm concerned, it's a woman's world anyway. Oh, they'll love that out there.
I went to see Fleetwood Mac in about 1976 at the Universal Amphitheater. I never saw so many women at a Fleetwood Mac show. Those songs that were on the radio now were resonating.
Chris? There weren't even that many women in rock and roll, you know, Janis Joplin, a few others, but it was kind of a man's world.
Stevie, and I want your face to come over John's shoulder.
Put your head on my shoulder.
To find two really talented women with strong personalities that actually led the band, you know, visually and vocally, was really unique.
I think at first Christine's ego was not affronted, but under a little bit of pressure, shall we say, when Stevie came in, especially since...
I don't want to be out in front. I don't want to be out in the middle of the stage. Like playing my piano and singing over here, being one of the men.
In Fleetwood Mac, Stevie had a comrade that kept all the male energy maybe at check.
I hope that your film doesn't develop. Like, doesn't develop.
And I see it when I'm around them now, that they love each other and they get along. They don't fight. I haven't seen them fight once over anything.
Well, is that any better?
Just the elegance.
Sorry.
When I first joined Fleetwood Mac, Christine and I sat down with her and I said to her, I know you already know all the famous guys. You know Stevie Winwood and Eric Clapton and Robert Plant. But I want you to know that you and I, in my opinion, should never, ever take second place to any of these men. We should never be barred from that boys' club because we're just as good as them.
Somebody up there. You want it? You want this replace? You really
We will be a force to be reckoned with for all of these music men that surround us. And they dare not get in our way or cross us because they won't win. And that was our attitude from the very beginning.
Women traditionally occupied roles as singers, backing singers, or groupies, or band-aids. Two really strong women go into this band, and two really great songwriters. I mean, these women have both independently written some of the biggest songs of pop music history.
Stevie's lyrics are gypsy witch, out there, dark, maybe at times.
She puts herself in the picture. She's painting a picture of her own character, like the Welsh witch, the white-winged dove. You know, she's the Gold Dust Woman. These are all, I think, about her.
The complete romantic on the left, down-to-earth bluesy on the right.
Soothe me with your smile. You're letting me know you're the best thing in my life.
There's a different wisdom in Christine's writing. She's more of a storyteller about love that's universal because of that.
I've already discovered in a small way, we worked on a little song of mine the other day, Christine and I, what a great instinct she has for what's going to keep people's attention. It'd be great to have a backing vocal there so people got something to sing along to.
I'm so weak, but you're so strong.
You know, where the chords are too complicated or the verse is too long, doesn't get to the chorus in time.
It's a real talent to be able to take a turn of a phrase, a few words, maybe 2 lines, that say a lot. You hear it one time and you remember it. That's my key to a great song.
She was writing direct, very direct words about simple you and me kind of songs.
And I can't walk away from you, baby, if I try.
I know John's heart, and I know he's a really good man. But when the evil Scotch comes into the picture, he becomes a different person.
Yeah, I was drinking too much and just money, fame, certain substances. And it was, for me, it was all too much.
We were in the Gorham Hotel in New York.
He became Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, really, seriously Jekyll and Hyde.
Chris, as a woman, one of the rare moments I would concede, felt vulnerable.
Look, it turned into a nasty fight. And I said, sorry, John, this is it. I can't do this anymore. And that was the end of it.
We'd gotten off the road with the Fleetwood Mac White Album, and it came time to do Rumors. And now we had the pressure of the White Album, titled Fleetwood Mac, doing really well. It put a lot of pressure on us to make a record the whole world would now be listening to. Mick had decided it would be better if we all went out of town, like a camp together. Sausalito is located north of San Francisco, just across the Golden Gate Bridge. And we booked 6 weeks at the record plant Sausalito. The state of the band's relationships were awful. Mick was breaking up with his wife, Jenny. Lindsay and Stevie were in the process of breaking up. And John and Christine McVie were having a very bitter breakup. I don't think there was anybody in the band who wasn't having a relationship problem when we made the Rumors album.
Working together and being every second in each other's pocket was a huge stress, as it turned out, between Christine and John.
Rumors was when Christine and I would many times have like adjoining rooms. John would be walking up and down the hallway yelling, "Where are you? Christine, where are you?" And she'd just be crying. And I would just go, "Chris, this will pass. He'll be okay. He'll get over this. You'll get over it. It'll be okay."
And then to write songs about each other and perform them. How it ever happened, I'll never know. And I listened to that record quite a lot lately, and I'm surprised and amazed at how great it really is, considering what we were going through.
A lot of artists don't want to be that personally revealing. They want to hide their real feelings and their deep personal agony, maybe, from the public. Fleetwood Mac, those records just seem like they're living it, and it's out.
I never write songs the year round, you know. I'm one of those people that when we know we're going to be recording, and I'll sit down and write songs for the album.
Pop. You Make Loving Fun, I think, is a really interesting song. It's a hybrid song. To my mind, it shows where her writings come from and where her writing's going. It's still got the blues thing. The verse is... which is a very sort of bluesy kind of groove. But then the chorus, it goes to the related major, and she's doing this... which is really not blues. This chorus is pure pop. You get this wonderful feeling of the song opens up, and it's magical.
I was in California, Rumors hit, and you couldn't get away from it. I mean, it was so big, it was like the Beatles or something. It just took over the whole radio.
Suddenly, you are the band with the album.
When you went to a show, at the end of the night, your encore was Songbird.
Everybody just said that it would be a good way to end the set. And Mick said, I think it would be a killer if we just, you know, we do the encores and then just come on with the grand piano and just do Songbird to finish. And we tried it like 2 or 3 nights, and it was devastating.
For you, there'll be no for you.
I saw her play it in LA. It's just sort of devastating when somebody brings a huge room into such a personal place.
This is an arena now, like at the former, 17,505 people. You could hear a pin drop. People were mouthing along to the words, but they weren't singing them. Almost in a trance thing.
I woke up in the middle of the night. I had a piano in my room. The words, the melody and the chords came to me all at the same time, and I had nothing to record it on. So I had to play the bloody thing all night long so I wouldn't forget it. And I hauled myself into the studio first thing, 9 o'clock in the morning, and got the engineers to put it on a 2-track. All the guys in the band listened to it the next day, and they went berserk.
I remember more than often just standing at the side of the stage. We would be waiting to go out and say goodnight as a band. The tenderness that it sends, it just feels like a prayer that we all need to hear. She said she wrote it for the band. That to me is lovely to hear, and as far as I'm concerned, she wrote it for the world, you know.
Rumors was so successful. In a way, we were becoming the victim of our own success. I mean, how do you follow up on a record that sold so much and was so endearing to so many people around the world? When it came time to do a follow-up record, the first thought was, well, of course, we should perhaps try to do a Rumors 2.
Lindsay took a strong direction, and he was adamant about the fact we cannot create another Rumors.
If Lindsay decides he doesn't want to do something a certain way, and it's on one of my songs, for example, then I respect his opinion, even if he's wrong.
I don't know if she could absolutely get involved in that record as much as she did with Rumors of the White Album because of Lindsay's strong stance and the strong vision. I remember The Clash was a big influence on Lindsay. In fact, I believe at that time he cut his hair. I mean, suddenly all this curly hair he had that everybody loved him for, he cut all off to be more like the English scene.
I still wouldn't mind trying that square one that Stevie uses on stage.
All right.
In fact, a lot of that record was done by himself at his house.
Lindsay wanted it less produced, not always to mine and Stevie's approval. He actually played drums on Kleenex boxes and things in a big toilet.
Stop it.
Mick never played drums on some of the things.
Hey Mick, how do you feel like playing drums?
And if you listen, you can discern that it isn't Mick because it's a little bit out of tempo.
Hi, my name is Dennis Wilson. I make rock and roll records.
One day during Tusk, Dennis Wilson and the Beach Boys asked me, would you fix me up with Christine McVie? I believe Chris is beautiful. I really enjoy her music, and I'd like to meet her and date her. And I said, well, that's a big ask, Dennis, but I'll ask her and see what she has to say. It was probably one of the most incredible, wildest, spirit-freeing experiences of Christine's life.
I encountered Dennis Wilson and his fiancée at Tower Records in Hollywood. And he said, do you know my lady Christine? And I go, my lady Christine? To have Dennis Wilson say words like that, he was so whipped.
Christine was a very well-mannered, proper English woman. Dennis was the exact opposite, was a man's man, rugged. She found herself trying to keep up with him, like doing things like water skiing or especially sailing. Dennis loved to sail.
Sailed up to Santa Barbara because I used to play a harmonica, and the dolphins would come up and look at you, you know. They loved the harmonica.
She was crazy about him. She's happy in a really fun relationship, and her relationship with Dennis was kind of fun for all of us because he was such a nut.
He was a really sweet man. And when he was straight, he was fantastic, but he wasn't very often straight.
Honey, honey, honey. Ooh, could be sweeter than
You'd occasionally see Dennis carrying this jug with him that obviously was orange juice and vodka.
I used to see him sober once a month. When he came home, took a couple of Quaaludes and slept for 24 hours. And he'd get up, have a shower, come downstairs and just be like a normal guy. And he was so sweet. And then he was ready to go out and rock again.
He caused her a lot of grief, but he was an incredibly romantic man.
It was my birthday, and he wanted to plan a surprise at my house. And I had a big lawn leading down to these great Japanese boulders, you know. He hacked out a heart shape, took the lawn out, took up the grass out. He wanted to pack it full of roses. And I don't think he quite managed to finish it, so it didn't look exactly how he wanted it to look. And that was, well, I think, when he sort of officially asked me to marry him. And I said, where's the ring then? He goes, oh, I've got the stone, I haven't got the ring. So he gave me the stone, and it didn't hurt to a hill of beans.
We had just done a massive 13-month album, massive press. The crazy thing was the test tour was already basically booked. A huge long tour, a year tour.
We toured relentlessly all over the planet. Total lunacy in lifestyle.
98 shows. And I'm sick of playing!
Everyone had learnt to seemingly willingly sell their soul to the company store, known as Fleetwood Mac. Not about making money or anything, it's just that we couldn't stop it.
We were just falling apart at the seams, really, at the end of that tour.
Tired and angry and ready to go home. And anything could have happened. Why don't you tell me what's going on? It just started with Lindsay. If he wanted to really make a little dig towards me, he would like kind of go into his Rihanna stance. Don't say that you love me.
Lindsay was mimicking Stevie with the Wings, with his jacket, doing all this kind of stuff. And I just thought it was unprofessional and unkind.
I just gave him the look. And he like threw a guitar at me, and I ducked, because I'm fast. But Christine, her vantage point, she could see it all. So she took it to heart that night. I'd had it. And so Lindsay left the stage, and I just chased him down. But Chris beat me to him. She was screaming at him. She was angry.
I just got my glass of wine and went, hey, that was really professional, wasn't it? Because that's just rude.
All right.
When Fleetwood Mac finishes a tour, we walk off the stage, nobody looks back. And then we just go home, and then we don't talk to each other.
What? Describe being rich and famous in California. This is it, kid.
Chris and I, of course, we keep in touch, but the rest of us, we just go our own way. You'd wait a year, and then everybody would start getting the calls from the managers and everything saying it's time. So everybody would start writing for Mirage.
Fleetwood Mac. No doubt disappointed their new LP, Mirage, has barely managed to notch up sales in the region of a paltry 1 million.
It's pathetic, really.
Yeah, they should be ashamed, I think.
It's obviously a bit of a come down from the golden days of Root.
Knew what they were getting into.
I don't know if I look sweaty or anything. How's the eye makeup doing? The eye makeup running.
We had a very early call because it gets baking by about 9 o'clock. Christine was there nice and early. Stevie arrived late. We had John and his trailer, but nobody was really talking to each other. It was already 105 degrees. A very fractious bunch of people. A moody band plus a bunch of alcohol it was pretty hellish.
We were out there somewhere in the sand dunes, and it like out towards probably Borrego Springs or something in the dunes, which is like snow mountains, except it's sand.
It was really difficult. We were all drinking still, and you can't really drink in 104 degrees. It was stupid.
I went to get John McVie out of the motorhome. I opened the door and was greeted by a giant swinging fist that just missed me. Seemed really angry at me, but then I realised not really angry at anybody, he was just drunk. But it was also Mick's birthday, shape of a male phallus that was ordered specifically for him. And there was a prop sword. Mick went a bit nuts with it, chopped the cake in half, and half the table, I think. Stevie Nicks insisted on wearing heels in the sand, so she couldn't walk. We had to lay down boards for her to walk.
I had to literally walk across the top of the dune. Every time I took a step, it was like my whole heel went down in it. But, you know, I managed. And we were all full of sand by the end of that day, so it was like being at a horrible beach party. But, you know, it came out great. The song was a huge hit because there was that, you know, perfect chorus that she writes.
Through all of this, Christine really almost felt kind of like the mother to it. She just rose above it, mildly pissed off with this person, mildly pissed off with that person. But you could tell she'd been through it many, many times.
The Mirage record was probably the last time I remembered the band working together as an actual band unit, sadly. After that, there was a 5-year period where a lot of the people in the band did solo records. I think they needed to reassure themselves that they each had their own creative energy and could pull it off on their own.
Christine recorded a solo album and hooked up with keyboardist Eddie Quintella, who played on the record. And all of a sudden, Mick Fleetwood, everybody's leaving and moving to Hawaii and getting remarried. And I said, okay, everybody's really happy.
Christine McVie composes in the music room she shares with her new husband, Portuguese musician Eddie Quintella, in their home in Beverly Hills.
To some people, the band had already cashed their check.
Seen the time, have you? Surely you must have.
Everyone was splintering off doing different projects of their own. And to plan the 5 of us to get together to commit to do the album Tango in the Night was really difficult.
During Tango in the Night, Stevie was probably the farthest from the band. She was doing it for a solo record. We rarely saw her.
I went to rehab in 1986 for coke. And when I came out, I was great. And then everybody was worried that I was going to start doing cocaine again, which I wasn't. And they got me to go to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist put me on a tranquilizer called Klonopin. This was like, let's just sedate you to the point of you're not really going to care about doing anything.
Christine ended up filling in a lot of the female energy. And Lindsay was able to work with her a lot more than Stevie on Tango in the Night. Therefore, his influence on Christine's songs was a lot more apparent.
I loved working with him because he just brought phenomenal production ideas to my songs and improved them.
I can do it. Computer, play Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac.
Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac from Spotify.
That's a half-speed acoustic guitar and electric combined.
He slowed the tape down really slowly and played the parts slowly. And then when it came up to the...
It feels, because of the proximity of the chords, when I play them, they're very synthy chords because they're not... I can imagine writing on a synth because you're just very paddy. And when you're playing a keyboard synth, you tend to write chords that are next to one another because they just flow nicely.
It's really 80s sounding. It doesn't sound like Fleetwood Mac from the 70s. And the production actually suits that one.
Lindsay had just gotten this thing called a Fairlight, the beginning of musical sampling. And it was an amazing machine. I think it was 8-bit at that time. It sampled keyboards, horns, guitars, vocals. It was amazing. It was the beginning of the digital age. And we started using the Fairlight on things, and he wanted to make sure that that had a healthy amount to do with the sound of Tango in the Night.
I'm the first person to say, I don't really write good singles. I'm not, singles really aren't my thing. So thank God for Chris. It's an art, for sure. She can hear it in her head. That's a hit chorus.
Well, I'm the hook queen. I'd like to start with a hook. Got the little lies. Tell me lies, tell me sweet dear. We even got the harmonies for them and everything. Because I don't know how to write any other way. It just happens that way. If I don't like to start with verses, I need the hook first. Then I know what I'm singing about.
She's asking the guy to lie to her because she's strong enough to see through it.
That's the trick about writing a love song. You can't just go, I love you, you love me, where are you, I miss you. There always has to be a bit of a twist.
Tell me lies, like sweet little lies. Kind of almost cynical in a way. Go ahead, I got your number.
And the video to that, with the horses and riding around in the corral and being up in the barn, the very strange thing about that, for both me and Christine, was it was the 2-story barn. The end of this barn had no door or a wall. Every once in a while, Lindsay would just walk towards that wall of air, and it was like he was leaving. It was the strangest thing.
Finished the album Tango in the Night, which I love. Stevie was all right to do the tour. She was ready to do the tour by then. And then Lindsay made the announcement, well, I'm not going to do this tour. I want to pursue my solo career. And that turned into a bit of a fight, quite a physical fight.
I think everybody in their own way said, like, what do you mean you can't do it? I mean, it's booked. And when a tour is booked, you are talking about the reputation of all your promoters, the reputation of all the people that back you up, all the people that work for you. And he was just stone-faced. I'm not doing it. In my complete tranquilized euphoria, got up and ran across the room to him screaming. Then he chased me downstairs and out into Chris's driveway, and then Christine chased the both of us downstairs out into her driveway. And she was screaming at us, like, if you're going to kill each other, please don't do it at my house. I remember that succinctly. She said, if you're going to kill each other, just don't do it here. Go somewhere else. Go home. Go to your own houses. And so we stopped. And Lindsay just peeled out of that driveway like at 90 miles an hour. And that was that.
Then we just all decided we got to replace Lindsay, and that's when we got Billy Burnett and Rick Vito, and rehearsed frantically and went out on the road. It wasn't the same, obviously.
They visited radio stations. They took the photos, but they weren't at the top of the charts week after week. and a few years down the road, they were done.
George Bush, if you won't use your power to help America, step aside. I will. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. I love you.
I was not prepared for Don't Stop becoming infused in the Bill Clinton presidential victory campaign. If you were to total up the airplay and the film clips and it's your president of the United States, that was a monumental thing for that tune to be grabbed.
We disbanded. Lindsay was not involved. Stevie was off doing something else. Then when the inauguration ball happened, they asked us to perform it. So that meant we had to come together and meet and rehearse. So that was kind of interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, performing together for the first time since 1982, Lindsey Buckingham, Mick Fleetwood, Christine McVie, John McVie, and Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac.
I remember watching Bill and Hill clapping along to it. They didn't have the best timing, let me tell you.
Sir, would you join us, please?
And I was hanging out with somebody who said, this is going to be the biggest touring act. They're going to get back together. I said, oh, maybe they'll do a TV special. He said, oh, no, they're around for the next 4 or 8 years off this one.
Thought, this sounds really bloody good, you know? So we realised that we would like to work together again.
Welcome, everybody. And thank you for all coming. We are so knocked out that you're here. Thank you.
But a few years later,
So we decided to do a 6-week tour, at which point I said, I just want to make it clear that I'm leaving after that. I've just bought a house in England and I'm going to be leaving. The chain is the 5 of us, the Rumours 5. That's synonymous to what we're all about. And I was going to leave. That was the complete bust-up of the chain, as far as I was concerned.
I was visiting her hotel suite. I walked into the room, I sat on the couch. She turned around to me. She just said, please don't ask me. And that was it.
Her mind was not to be changed. She was adamant. This is what she said to me. I'm not sorry. I am not sorry. I'm finished. I don't want to fly anymore. I don't like it. I don't enjoy watching you and Lindsay batter each other.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
She packed up. She sold her beautiful house with the heart-shaped flower garden and put all her pianos and everything in storage. That's how much she wanted out.
My father had recently died. I decided I wanted to be closer to my brother. I missed my roots. I missed my feet being on English soil. That's enough to say. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to have an English house, go to an English pub, have an English pint, have some Heinz beans on toast, all that kind of thing, you know?
The idea was to buy this big country house, which was near us in Kent. She imagined it being full of visitors, her being like the Earth Mother type thing, the green wellies and all this kind of stuff. And for a while it worked okay, but there were increasing tensions with Ed.
And then Ed and I got divorced, and there I was living in this huge place on my own. I guess I just got quite isolated. Things got from bad to worse when I started drinking too much. I fell down the stairs and hurt my hip because I was taking codeine and I was drinking. That's not good. So it got bad.
She had a studio built and the Songbird piano was there, but she never played it. It was as if she immersed herself in a lake somewhere and found that the water was just too deep and she got submerged.
I live in Hawaii, so occasionally I said, well, you've got to come and visit me. There was never really a huge hope that she would ever turn up. She didn't fly at all.
I was really terrified of flying. When I landed in London, I swore this would be my last flight. I hated it, and it really became a problem. I developed even agoraphobia, where I was frightened to even leave my doorstep. So in the end, I went to a therapist, and he said to me, where would you most like to go in the world? And I said, Maui, because Mick lives there. And he said, well, why don't you buy yourself a ticket to Maui? You can sit on it, you don't have to go, but you'll have the ticket. So I did, I got the ticket, and then a week later, Mick called. And he said, hey, Chris, are you going to be in London? I told my psychiatrist this, and he said, well, when he goes back, why don't you go back with him?
And she said, I'm coming. And I said, yeah, sure. No, she said, I'm coming. I want to fly. It transpired. The first big flight she did was with me to Maui to go on a holiday.
Didn't even feel the wheels leave the ground. And I was cured.
She came up to the house. She was with my mother, Biddy. We were rehearsing to do a show.
Mick had a little band in Maui, a little blues band, and he said, why don't you play something with us? I'm going, no, I haven't been on stage for 15 years. I'm a bit nervous.
She had declined. She said, no, I don't do that anymore. And then the next morning, the phone rang, fairly early, on my house phone. I immediately thought there was something wrong. I don't know why, but it was sort of unusual. And she said, it's Chris here. I said, are you okay? I said, yeah, fine. And she said, you know what, I've been thinking. She said, would you like me to sing? And I walked her on the stage, unannounced. That led to this whole thing.
And I realised when I trod on the boards that I had the best time.
I must admit, I thought that too much time and too much water had gone under the bridge. So I was quite surprised when she rejoined Fleetwood Mac.
What did you miss?
Apparently not much, I'm told. I know that Stevie and Lindsay were fighting like cat and dog the whole time, so it was really, in actual fact, the Buckingham Nicks show backed with John and Mick. That's what it was. And so they were tearing each other limb from limb, I believe.
Oh, Stevie, something new. Very nice. Well, this precious lady, whose songs echo through this band's history.
It's really bold, especially for a woman to come back at age 69.
Give it up, London! Welcome,
think it's unprecedented. I don't think any band member in any band has gone for 15 years and returned to the same people. It was just as if that 15 years had never really happened.
It was great. It was great to have her back. It's that feminine thing. It's like when you're just one girl, then it becomes the boys' club. And that, for me, wasn't near as much fun. It was a new concept again, because she'd been gone for so long.
We revisited the Tusk studios. We cut about 6 rough tracks. I do love Carnival Begin because it's a song about me rejoining Fleetwood Mac.
Carnival begin. There's your mix right there, man.
It's all about, I want it all. Merry-go-round, you know, carnival begin, and we are a carnival. Initially, we wanted it to be a Fleetwood Mac album, if possible, but Stevie didn't want to do that. She was doing the project at the time, so we thought, well, we'll carry on without her. As it went on, we thought, well, let's just do it as a duet album. This is surreal.
It's just really, I don't know, seems very profound. I'm just very happy to be here.
I think it saddened everybody, but I just don't think there was any other solution. I love Lindsay. I love and always thought he was one of the most fantastic people to work with. But, you know, it happened. To be honest with you, I'm having so much fun with the people that are in the band now. We have a great time on stage every night. There's no tension, there's no animosity, there's no panic.
You know, when I saw Fleetwood Mac when Christine had retired, and it was good, but there was something missing. Part of it is the rhythm she brings to the rhythm section with that piano, and just her presence, the tone of her voice in the harmonies. When she shows up on the stage, it's, well, Christine's here. Okay, now it's real.
After 64 shows, I'm certainly feeling this great drive that Fleetwood Mac have to stay on tour.
If you wake up and don't want to smile, if it takes just a little while.
Why keep doing it at this age? Because we love it. And it fulfills something in your heart that nothing else in life can do.
Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, it'll soon be here.
I think you get touring under your skin, but it took that 15 years hiatus, I think, to really realise but it's the most astoundingly wonderful thing to do.
She's the most annoying person in the band now. It's like, but when are we going to be working? You know, there was maybe a time when that wasn't the case. But I mean that just, she came back to music. We all should be really happy that she has done that.
Giving so many people so much pleasure, and in return they give you so much adrenaline and pleasure from giving them pleasure.
I think we're best friends, I believe. My oldest friend. Well, not that she's the oldest, but one of the oldest people well, how do I phrase it? It's a good friend.
My favorite piece of jewelry is this ring, and you're not going to get how sparkly it is from, this is not diamond light, but this is the most beautiful ring, and she gave it to me before she left. When she was gone, I wore it every single day for the next 16 years, just because when I look at it, then it would be like, there she is.
I know now where I belong, and it took me 15 years of not being with them to realise it.
The best in the music biz with Ken Bruce performing live in Radio 2's Piano Room every morning this month. Listen now.
This is Obs and Guiney. You're generally sailing the ship alone. A ship that's massive and on fire and no one's had the time to teach you how to sail. It's literally life or death here. I'd say this is going very well. Hi, I'm Adam, one of the doctors.
I was supposed to be having a water bath.
Well, you never know, one of the pipes might come down. Welcome to the NHS.
This is going to hurt. Starts Tuesday at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Music Night on BBC Two, a body made of British blues and Californian rock, the heart full of mystical chemistry, but the soul of Fleetwood Mac's magic has always been the music.